Hey, good morning, and welcome to office hours for. Let me see. Hang on, I'll turn that off. Welcome to office hours for September 4th, 2022. Made it to the month of September. It's pretty amazing. I was just doing the follow up of archiving these videos and organizing everything and backing those up, and realize that I think we're at episode 43 or so, something like that. So I've been almost doing this for a full year, but by the time I get to episode 50, it'll be a full year. So I got 7 more. It's like a month, a little bit more than a month left. So hope you've been enjoying. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome. Aloha. I want to start off with a little bit of higher knowledge here. Get ourselves in the right mood. Which today is shit. Step in a pile of shit. It's the army, and in times of war, it is desirable to be led by a cautious and humane general. The hexagram shi is the guide to proper conduct in the face of adversity. It is inevitable that we sometimes face trials and challenges in life. How we prepare ourselves, by whom we are led, and how we conduct ourselves during these wars determines whether we are victorious or not. The I Ching counsels us to follow the example of a first-rate army. A truly powerful army always consists of a number of devoted soldiers who discipline themselves under the leadership of a superior general. If he has achieved his position through force, the general will not last for long, as he will lose the support of his army when he needs it most. If, on the other hand, he has become a leader through superior conduct and even-handed treatment of his fellow soldiers, then his power is well consolidated and it endures. So it is with us. Only by conducting ourselves humanely with persevering balance can we have a genuine influence in trying times. There's always the temptation to be led into battle by our egos, but we are guaranteed a humiliating defeat if we turn our inferiors loose in this way. A superior person achieves victory in the same fashion as a superior army, by putting his inferior emotions under the guidance of his superior emotions, and proceeding cautiously, modestly, and with the continual goal of achieving peace and detachment. You are advised to prepare for a trial now. Your chances of success will be determined by how you conduct yourself within and without. If you remain alert, modest, just, and independent, all will go well. If you are gentle and humane, you will have the allegiance of those around you. Advance cautiously when the time is right, and when it is not, do not allow your ego to stand in the way of retreat and disengagement. Remember, the ultimate victory in any battle comes when we regain our inner independence, our neutrality, and our equanimity. These can only be won by placing our inferiors under the leadership of our superiors. Do this now, and success will be yours. So yeah, interesting. I model my life after that piece of shit. But yeah, it really trying to become a superior leader, trying to do what's best, trying to, have leadership, but not be condescending or being, being balanced. And I like the thing because it's talking about, being a superior general, but the general's always seeking for peace and detachment. It's not like this general that's always looking to like get in the next fight, in the next battle, and like smash things out of the way and just dominate and just be like, I'm the best. Ho, ho, ho. It's more someone that's looking to be like, the quote that's been resonating with me lately has been that it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And it's really, as times get tougher, as we're heading into these energy crisis, food shortages, all these things. I talk about these things, may or may not come true. Hopefully we find peace and we all learn how to go. But, if you watch politics and you see the way the world's going, it's kind of like, oh, I'm not sure it's going to be so peaceful and easy in the future. And especially as energy becomes harder and all the things we did in 2020 to kind of stop the world, pause it, and then and then restart it. And it's like, oh man, printing 41% of American currency in the year 2020. And also saw another thing the other day where it's talking about, if we printed 41% of the currency in the last year, or in the last 2 years, 3 years, and now we expect inflation to only be like 14, 15%, whereas before it was like 2%. Now it's like 14, 15%. It's like, oh man, like, you better wait till it's 41% because then it's caught up with all the new dollars in circulation, right? So if you think it's going to go away early and you think it's going to be like gone, you got to kind of think about, 41% of the currency was printed in the last 3 years. Well, that means on inflation has to go up 41% for things to normalize back out, unless somehow that's going to be weird, So, and also, reading this book is one of my favorites. Can't read it because it's backwards, but it's The Art of War. And always reading this book of understanding, like, it's best to be prepared for a battle, but to be a gardener, to be someone of peace, to be sharing these valuable Korean natural farming solutions with you, with the people you encounter, with the world, honoring Master Cho here, respecting Pure KNF Foundation. This it's the logo's in the heart of love, right? And bringing this back so that we're all on the same page and bringing each other together. So it's amazing to see you guys from all over the world, and just wanted to check in with you guys a little bit on, are you seeing inflation and food shortage where you're at? I can tell you, I just so we're building a barn here. I'm building a shed to put in. I need to. It rains a lot in Hawaii, and rust is an insane enemy of all machinery. It just eats it away. So my dad built a shed of in 2020, and it's a 20 by 30 shed, and he built it for about I think $5,300. And I now, like a year and a half later, am trying to build the same shed, and just got a quote from the building store that this will now be $7,500. So that's about I'm not exact, like I took the exact numbers and worked it out. And it's a 35% increase in pricing of the same shed. In fact, mine's a little bit smaller, and it's a 35% increase in inflation of same materials, same things. A year and a half later, 35% increase. So just curious where you're at, if you guys are getting inflation where you're at, what you're seeing. I go around here to the like kind of like the Costco equivalent here, and it's loaded with food. Whereas in 2020, it was like empty of food, and it's loaded with food now. Food like substance anyways. And go to the hardware store, and it's loaded with stuff. It seems like they actually have a glut of inventory right now. So it's kind of an interesting idea to get onto. And oh, what's up, Mark? Hey man, I'm glad that we were able to build get my barn going back then. And in 2020, that time right before March 2020, Mark was here. It's Armbruster Throckmorton. I don't know why he goes by that name, but he was here and we built this thing, and building materials at that point pretty cheap. And yeah, so you guys are got some people, Manu in Switzerland, say electricity is up by 40%, which means that if so, and same in Colombia, Juan Santa is saying that it's up by 30%. So if you're thinking about this and like the inflation, and then energy costs are up 30%, like we printed 40% of the money. So it only makes sense that it's going and rising 40%, 30%, because energy is like the bottom line of this, right? Like, electricity, gas, we generate these things. How many of you out there are on like, an off-grid system? Like here at this farm, we run on solar panels and batteries, which I'm not encouraging everybody to do that, because batteries and everything, it's super expensive, and just, the lithium is also kind of an idea of wildness. And, so, but right now I'm in the middle. Like yesterday, I just went down to the river that runs through our land. Actually, on Friday, I went down there with my buddy, and we used to run on hydroelectricity, and a lot of the infrastructure's in there, but our intake and everything got taken out by a hurricane, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. I'm not sure. It was Hurricane Lane that came through and dumped over 6 feet of rain in about 24 hours here, and that amount of rain totally rearranged the river and took out my intake, and it's gone. But most of the pipes there. So we were looking at it to try to put a new intake in, get it into the river in a way that makes sense without, moving too many rocks, and building, a really nice intake that would handle the high river as well as the low river, and get us to run, and put in 6-inch HDPE so that I could get a bunch of volume, and then run that down over the waterfall down to the 4-inch PVC, 2 existing 4-inch lines that I have, that from there down it's connected, but it got taken out above the waterfall during the hurricane, and hook those in so that that way it's I get this energy and able to hedge these bets and get ahead of this. So when energy rises 30-40%, which I'm unfamiliar with how much energy's risen in Hawaii. I know the other day there was rolling blackouts because the energy plant that burns naphtha gas that's mined in Indonesia that's brought here went out, and it's just wild. So Cyclopath is saying I'm on grid electricity, but mainly use the wood stove and kerosene lamp. I would like to get well water and my the roof in order to catch rain. Yeah, some places like Colorado, you can't even catch rain. You have to get a permit to put out a water collection barrel, and it can only be like 55 gallons in size, and it's wild. And Rainbow Possum would love to get off grid. We aren't yet. We do have a well, septic, no gas, and we have a backup generator, and we're still connected to electricity for now, mostly heated by a wood stove. So, if you're heated by wood stoves, man, this is the way people used to do it. And if you're learning KNF, then you're able to make your wood grow even faster, keep your forest healthier, make sure those sprouts come up. Forest management, like, used to be one of the biggest things folks used to do back in the day. Yeah, so this is the way to do it. Radium. Yeah, I don't know if that's the way to heat things. It sounds like also you're gonna heat some of your DNA through the gamma waves that come off of that. And I like this idea that the worst of times are times to connect and transform together. As we go through this reset that they've put us on, clearly it doesn't mean that they're going to win and that their, psycho template of being plugged into the metaverse is going to win. It may actually be a reset, turn back to natural farming and Korean natural farming rising. And the people that know this are the people that rise to be, your philosopher kings of the next age, that then can put in, strong republics to get the will of the people, so that we're able to be guided and moved on the right paths through and forward. So it's interesting to hear, I don't know to trust the news, but here where we have a global community, it's nice to get feedback in and to hear that, energy prices around the world have gone up 30%, 40%, and these things are out there. So wanted to answer Joe's question here, because he's back on natural farming, which the whole point of this is to talk about natural farming, not just the issues that are coming up. But he's asking, he's making a lot of the cheap fertilizer, cheap microbes for next year, or, well, cheap liquid fertilizer, I guess. So disgustingly cheap fertilizer is what I call it, disgustingly cheap food. I have plenty of IMO4 on hand, and I wanted to use it instead of leaf mold soil. Your thoughts on that? Benefits or disadvantages? And I think that it's actually, that's a great substitute. You're getting all those microbes in there. They're the soil microbes. They're going to go into this water. They're going to start breaking things down. So using IMO4 instead of leaf mold, totally fine, especially for making the disgustingly cheap fertilizer, which is just taking a bunch of weeds and things, putting them in a barrel, and then adding water and adding these microbes. Whether it's leaf mold or you're adding IMO4, it's going to get those microbes in there. They're going to start breaking things down. They're going to build nice colonies. After about 2 weeks, it'll stink to high heaven. It'll stink before that. And then as they break it down further and further, it's a putrefaction process that makes those nutrients available. So in all that I'm talking about, the IMOs will do it. The only disadvantage is that IMO4 can be somewhat expensive to make. So if you spend a bunch of time and energy to make good low temperature IMO4, you may want to use that just as a soil foundation to sprinkle that over, and then pour the disgustingly cheap fertilizer, disgustingly cheap food on there to feed it. And that's its only real major disadvantage, is that it's kind of an expensive premium product to just be putting in, when you could just go to the forest or under a compost pile or anywhere and get that balled up, rich microbial soil. The one thing about leaf mold that's being asked is it's not the leaf mold. It's not the leaves. It's that layer right below the leaves where the leaves are turning into soil. So when Youngsong Cho talks about it, and he talks about leaf mold, it makes you think that it's the mycelia that you see up in the leaf litter or in a compost pile where you see mycelium. That's not really what he's talking about. What he's talking about is right at the soil layer. So leaf mold is a little bit of like a weird concept. And I just want to make sure that, we're clear on that, and that it's like really what you're dealing with is not leaf mold per se, but it's that soil right beneath the, like where the leaves are turning into soil. That's what you're wanting to get. And that stuff is plentiful. You just put down some wood chips, leave it there for a couple weeks, and right under there, you'll see it's starting to break down. It's starting to turn rich and brown, and just grab that little balled up soil layer right there. Just scrape that top 1/4 inch right there, scrape it up with a little shovel. Boom. Now you got a whole bunch, throw that into your tank instead of using IMO4 that you went through all this whole process to make. So it's working there. And Jay from Maine says, our electric bill is almost double, which again, wow. So think about it. They're trying to get you to put in an electric car, and now your electric car is going to cost you twice as much to charge. Like, this is like crazy. California just mandated electric cars. Not to say that, like, my whole point on this, like, I'm not like, I used to, back in 2010 era, 2008, 2010, I was just getting out of school, got real delusioned about things, and I actually owned the domain fossil fuel free and fossil fuel free farming. And I own these domains because I thought, man, we got to get off fossil fuels. But once I really got into farming, I realized that actually a little bit of fossil fuel plus spraying the microbes out and using very small amounts of it very smartly, like appropriate technology wise, is actually super amazing. That for me to go get seawater from the ocean and bring it up here, it's only a mile away, is so much effort if I had to carry it all. Sure, I can dehydrate it into sea salt and then carry the sea salt up here and then reconstitute it up here. But if I just use a little bit of gas in my truck and I go grab and I bring up a whole ton of seawater, now I'm able to regrow the whole earth and the whole rebuild more carbon sequestration plants and build richer soil up here and have that stuff become richer, that I'll sequester more carbon, CO2, if you're worried about CO2, than I've actually burned in that scenario. And I'm able to sequester by making the land up here more rich. And so I think part of the agenda of like making us leave these fossil fuel cars actually screws us over, because we have, if we take all the remaining fossil fuels and put them toward healing the earth, toward regenerating what we're doing, like in each of our cars, put a microbe sprayer so that as we're driving down the road, it's like we're spraying microbes, we're making it rich. We're sequestering the toxins we've released from the fossil fuel, as well as we're making so much more life available to absorb that carbon. If you believe that, CO2 is ruining the planet, which I'm not even a huge fan of that. I think it's more the toxins that are in the gas and in the forests and just, coal and everything. The toxins, we're toxifying the air, because more CO2 in the air actually makes plants grow faster. And if the climate's a little bit warmer, it grows faster. And I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole thing. There's a whole debates about this, and people hate and have so many arguments of stuff they're not even really that tuned into. And certain scientists study things, but they're financed by certain people that have certain agendas, and it just gets wild. So main thing is putting microbes, using every drop of fossil fuel we have to further the restoration of the earth, instead of saying, okay, I got this Ford F-150 that's 3 tons of metal sitting out there, but I gotta throw it away because I need to get an electric Ford F-150. Like, think of how much energy and pollution was released in mining that steel and getting it all, and then to be like, oh, well, just gotta throw it away and get electric because that's the green thing to do, that's the smart planet thing to do. It's like, man, just keep that F-150 running and use it to build the earth and restore things, instead of mining a whole new car out of the ground and then plugging it in where it costs you, your electricity bill is doubled. Like, what, maybe if it was all solar powered, but then you got to mine all the solar panels and all this stuff. It's like, just keep it going, put a microbe tank in it, spray it. That's the way that we're going to restore the earth. So I'm a little bit of a radical on that. I don't mind, but you guys here understanding these solutions, understanding how to do this. And if you think I'm wrong, tell me how you would do it. Tell me a way that you think is better than this, because I don't even, I just see it's this way of like doing it where we have these energy, we have this technology, we got to just utilize what we have. And that's what Korean natural farming is all about. Using what's at your feet, right? Not going and being like, oh, I need this and that. It's like, the sugar recipes, sugar should be all around us, and to understand this, and there's certain ways, and you're also up at a higher level of like, you're saying, if you say use what's around you, and then you get in a car and you're like, well, so someone emailed me or messaged me on a comment that said, I'm not into the Master Cho's methods because the sugar's not natural. And I was like, do you own a car? Do you get a car? Like, so you're gonna get a car which is not natural, but then you're gonna say, oh, but that's not natural. It's like, what level of like natural are you gonna go to? It's so. And then HJS Divine Hands is saying, why does the last 14 days of my FAA seem like forever? It's because of the classic thing that I watched, pot never boils. Just set it and forget it, man. Put it away, put it under your bed, put it someplace where you're not going to look at it for a while. And it's like Christmas. You can't just look at the gifts and like be like, oh, I can't wait for them. You just got to wait till Christmas morning, man. It's that much more anticipation. It's that much more reward. Maybe put out some cookies, and maybe the microbes will come and bless them up quicker. And who knows? And Eyewitness is saying here, would it matter if roots end up in the cheap food? Asking because root feeding nematodes possibly increase in population if there was some of the soil added to it. By the time you're putting, if you're worried about root feeding nematodes in the cheap food, the disgustingly cheap food where you're putting a bunch of matter in a bin and adding water and soil, like I was talking earlier, I wouldn't worry about the nematodes. By the time you wait 2 weeks, that putrefaction process, it makes a bunch of ciliates and all kinds of things that I don't think the root feeding nematodes are going to take over. However, it would be interesting to take a bunch of roots, put them in there, do that thing, add soil that has root feeding nematodes, and then after 2 weeks, throw it under a microscope and see what's there. Because nematodes are super easy to see and you would see them really easily. But to me, I don't think I would worry about it because the aquatic environment, everything, they're not going to really eat those things there. So and then it looks like you guys are answering Juan here. It's saying, I've been thinking about making KNF food with lentil sprouts instead of the tips of leaves. I don't have a good patch for making it. Am I in a good direction? Yeah, I think, that's a way to get real vital stuff. Like when you sprout things, they sprout, and then after that, right before, they go early in the morning, cut them, get all that material, you'll have amazing plants and things out there. So I would think, they also have sprouted seed tea or something that they make that the flower growers guys make. And the sprouts tend to have a lot of like maltose in it, which is another great thing to have. It's one of Master Cho's solutions. It's not in the core solutions, but look up maltose if you want. So that's a great direction to head, especially if you got a bunch of seeds and you can sprout them easily. And yeah, the Goofman is verifying that. And has anyone done cucumber vinegar? I have 10 gallons I started yesterday. That sounds amazing. I think cucumber vinegar is going to be great. I've never done it because I don't have that many cucumbers, but if I grew a bunch, maybe I would. I prefer to put cucumbers in vinegar and a little bit of seasoning and make pickles. I love pickles. Hey. Explaining carbon sequester, explain in dummy terms. Yeah, carbon sequestration, man. We're doing it. Where's the biggest carbon store? I think it's the ocean, but the second biggest is like the fields. It's not the trees. Trees hold, trees and vegetables hold, like vegetation holds some carbon, but more carbon is stored in the soil when the plants, like here's a plant and it's taking solar radiation in. It converts that solar radiation into sugars, and then it pumps that sugar into its root system in the ground. That root system then builds what they call humus as the microbes interact with this sugar, and the microbes then build solid, stable soil. And then they can store way more carbon in your soil layer than you could in the plants themselves. The plants themselves do not, they're full of carbon, and when you light it on fire, it's like it burns, right? It makes CO2 as it reoxidizes and, in H2O, right? Combustion. But the thing that's left over, or excuse me, but the plant itself, like one tree can only hold, I don't know, say like 1 unit of carbon. We'll just say that, but it can pump in 10 to 100 units of carbon into the soil. So that same plant, it's storing 1 unit of carbon, but it's also creating 10 to 100 units of carbon under the ground, storing. And so that's the beauty of putting more plants out there. If you're worried about carbon in the air, it's that they build these carbon structures in the soil. And then if you think of it, carbon is one of your best buffers for grabbing things. That's why they use it for filtration, right? You have a carbon filter. It grabs all these toxins and sticks it to it because the way it binds, it has 6 openings electrically for other things to bind. So not only are you getting the carbon out of the air and carbon into the soil, you're also now, as a toxin goes through and it percolates through the soil, it gets tied up in that carbon buffer. So now you're purifying the water, which is another thing. And then the air being released out of there, as the microbes are respirating air out from the ground and they're putting out this air, it's also being filtered by that carbon layer. So you're getting cleaner air. And And as you know, if there's one thing to show you about how microbes clean air, is take a piece of manure and spray lactobacillus on it, and all the emissions that come off it are just CO2. It's no longer nitrogenous, and you know, if you're worried about nitrogen, hey Netherlands, it's a way to clean up nitrogen out of the you know, nitrates and nitrites and things. The lactobacillus will just clean it up and break down oil compounds and disassemble toxins. So when you're talking about climate restoration, if you're not including microbes in your factor and including trees as something to support the microbes and this inoculation and this feeding this microbiome and this whole system, then you're really missing out in terms of like, it's nature's solution. That's why the earth was so clean. It came from like, you know, toxic way back in the day, all sulfur in the air and all these things. Then as microbes started to grow, they started to clean that stuff up, balance these compounds, hide them in carbon, put them in the earth, make it safe. And then of course we went and we dug it all up and then we burned it all back into the air, and it's like, oh, whoops. And then we took all the things that, you know, like Hanford, and put it next to a river and put nuclear waste into our rivers. You know, it's like, whoops. You know, like here we are, the humans, the naughty, you know, the naughty people, the Illuminati, right? Illumined, but naughty. You know, putting all this stuff back out there and getting, yeah, and yeah, talking about the pollution from mining batteries and all these things, you know, it's like, what is the best, you know, like trees and growing it so that we're in harmony with the earth, you know, in balance with the earth is a better way of saying it, because, you know, that's really where we got to come in. So, yeah, and also, yeah, a psychopath is saying that all those gas engines are perfected through years and they're so efficient. I mean, the thing is, a gas engine's still only like 25% efficient. The fuel is so dense in there, and then it doesn't, you know, it's still efficient, it's still effective, but it's still not that efficient. Yeah, and figure out how to burn microbes, the oil, you know, you guys are on it. And oh man, what are you talking about? The vinegar mark? Oh, FAA. He's talking about his FAA on his porch. Yeah, this stuff's amazing. You know, growing, putting these things out. I've never used Mucuna or Canavelia beans. But any ground cover, those sound like nitrogen fixers. If it's a bean, would be good. I use a lot of perennial peanut here. I also just go with the Young Song and Master Cho's solution of wild grass. You know, what's the best ground cover? Wild grass. Hey, thanks, Stone Mason. Woo! Yeah, hey, keeping it amazing. Thanks for the donation here, and super effective. I hope we can spread this message to more people, because I feel like what I have here and what I'm bringing forward for climate change, for earth restoration, for helping each other out as humanity, for giving things, I feel like it's unheard. You know, it's definitely not mainstream, and we have these solutions. And I mean, maybe there's like some sort of platform. Maybe this thing would go viral and people would be like, whoa, look at this dude in that weird orange hat with that nice beard. Look what he's doing, and he's teaching all these things, and he really has solutions. And maybe Bill Gates would be like, and he studied computers? Maybe that's the operating system I'm looking for. Maybe I shouldn't make people eat crickets. Maybe I should just use IMOs and make my nature come good. But at first he'd have to be like, maybe I'd just make my nature come good. And maybe because I just did that, and now he's not going to talk to me. But you ever look at Bill Gates? He's always like, it's like, oh man, that dude, he's, you know, I think he's been eating too much Impossible Burgers. And, you know, I don't know, man. If you don't have good fat in your brain, it shuts it down and you can't think well. And, you know, talking to Master Cho about it, it's like the best food for healing your brain and stuff. He, you know, he's kind of biased, and sorry, vegans, but the best food you can eat is naturally farmed raised pork, because the fats and those oils just lubricate your brain and make you think good. You know, and you raise them in harmony. They're happiest animals. They're just, oh, it's so fun to raise pigs. My pigs are about to breed. I finally got my sow old enough, and my other pigs, I've been retiring them, my old sows, and And my borer is good, and so I'm just stoked. And now those guys are my compost facility, and they bring that all for me, and it's nice to have this thing go. And what's up, Trinidad and Tobago? I hope you guys out in those islands are doing well, and you know, and putting all these things together. Talking about eyewitnesses saying talking about carbon this way seems to make cover crops more appealing. Absolutely. The number one thing you can do is always keep your soil covered. Do you guys know that if you bare the soil and you rip it all off in tillage, that it releases tons of CO2 and tons of, it's basically like a fire burning. People don't think of it, but all these aerobic microbes that are below are holding in all this carbon. And when you till it, it's like, well, where'd my carbon go? Where'd it go? As you till and you bring it up, as you bring it up, it oxidizes more. And it's almost like a fire is lit. You can't see it because it's subtle. It's just like the heat of fermentation. It's very subtle. Like you could see it with an infrared scope, right? You can see it a little bit, but it's like a fire lit, and it's off gassing. That's bringing, all these toxins being released into the air. So one of the worst things we do to the planet is tillage. And I'm not saying like don't form your beds and don't do the right thing, but it's annual tillage. It's year after year. It's multi-season tillage, where it's like shape your bed, get it the way you want, get good cover crops in there, get your plants to grow, and then don't stop tilling it. And it's not like the answer to no till is the chemical version of no till. Like if you ask people how to do no-till, they would say, oh yeah, well then you use the chemicals to burn down the weeds, and you don't till the land, and then you do this. And it's like burning down the weeds is just as bad as tilling. Like, like, so, but seed drills and ways to get your seeds in there, and having low growing cover crops in certain areas. And, I'm not advocating, like, because if you start to go that direction, you say, well, tillage is bad. Then all of a sudden you ostracize this whole set of people that are into tillage. So main thing is after you till, you put down IMOs. You put back the life. You put back these things so that you don't have this huge off-gassing. And if you need to till, right? But then put microbes back. Then feed the soil. Then build it back. You're growing soil more than crops, And I like people are agreeing with pork is the best meat. Yeah. Oh man, I hope you're feeling good, Thomas. Man, things are good, man. You're in Florida. It's it's beautiful out there. It's no need to feel discouraged. And I hope you guys all, lifting each other up and seeing how many people are tuning in, about 500 people a week to 1,000 people a week tune into this office hour. So even people that aren't here live are tuning in later. And I hope, we're really working on getting the directory together. We've been building that. We got a bunch of software requirements and all kinds of things. So we'll be looking to get, whether it's me or somebody else to build the thing and get it together, because having us linked up so that we can feel this community. So this message that I'm putting out here can be amplified, magnified, that, speaking of like a leader today, that we're being challenged, but turning, I have been turning myself into that leader, but getting more people into this, this movement, this thing where you feel that you're connected enough that you can empower your people and build this and turn yourself into a general, so that, we're spreading the, this message, this hope, and then reinforcing each other, because sometimes too, it can be lonely, right? We're out there, we're by ourselves, but as we bring it together, it's like, that's why I like sharing these videos that people send me with you guys, because I get to see those. And speaking of, I think the Goofman did send me his video here this week, and I think it worked this time. So I'll pull this up here. Maybe he sent it. Did he send it to me? I swear I saw it come in. Maybe he sent it to my other email. So, and yeah, My wife grew up in the Philippines. Pork is a way of life, you know, and they got the African swine flu happening there. But I've been working with a guy who's up in Luzon, and he's been able to avert the African swine flu, even though it's coming back. And these natural farming methods are able to avoid it, you know. And what's up, Angola? Yeah. So Africa. So how to sell KNF? Man, well, number one, you got to just do it. You got to do it. And when people see you doing it and they see you saving money, they see you being healthier, they see you bigger yields, they're going to come to you and try to spy on you to learn what you're doing. So number one, do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. And when you put natural farming in, you put these microbes in, your soil's getting better. People and everyone else is struggling from drought, and your things are growing lush with less irrigation, less money, less tillage, less, you know, everything, all the benefits. People will come to you. So, you know, it sells itself if you do it right and you practice and you know what you're doing and you make it happen. So that's the key. Yeah, small scale seed drill would be awesome. Hooking them up to BCSs, getting more of the mini tractors out to people. That'd be great. And yeah, adding these things to your soil, it's gonna be great. Yeah, pork's a way of life, man. It is. So let's see here. I know the Goofman. Oh, he did send it here. Okay, it was just back a little bit. Okay, so let's take a moment to go look at some inspiration here of the Goofman and check these out. Let me see, maybe this one. This one. I'll do this one. That way you can see me. So here's his volunteer tomatoes growing out of compost. Look at those amazing things. Actually, let me do the other one, and then that way I can make them bigger and you guys can see it. But look at these lush tomatoes. And then I like that he puts up this kind of like hardware cloth stuff. It'll climb to that, and you can pin them really nicely. But yeah, look at those tomatoes. And so last week we got to see his front yard, and then this week we get to see his backyard. These look like some sort of pumpkins. Not exactly sure. Maybe it's rhubarbs. I don't know. But nice tomatoes, nice fence, man. Look at these flowers, snap peas, I think. Gotta be. Look at those sweet peas. Oh yeah. Oh, nice corn. Got that corn, bro. And then wow, look at this. All these greens down here. Man, that's so amazing. Nice garden, man. Throw a little fish char. So take charcoal, biochar, and put it with fish and put it under your corn. Corn is a heavy feeder. So if you can dig fish under it, you'll get even bigger, more robust stalks. I just recommend, you know, the classic Native American, right? A fish head under every piece of corn, and it goes even bigger. Not to say, you know, it's coming up. I see it tasseling here. It looks like you can get nice corns coming up, but man, you can get 3-4 nice corns per thing if you put a little fish in there. It's a heavy feeder. So either put soak biochar in fish amino acid, the fuel, or bury a fish head underneath. But yeah, oh man, look at this. Oh, look at these strawberries. Wow. Oh, and it looks like asparagus heads coming up too. This is an awesome garden, man. Thank you for sharing. Oh yeah, and then all these herbs, basils. I don't know what else these are, but yeah, wow. I mean, this is the thing. If every yard had one of these in there, and everyone was doing a little bit of this, we'd have so much food. I bet you get more food than you can eat out of here, and you probably got to share it with your neighbors, you know. And look at this beauty too. You know, you got these little figurines out there, these pinwheels that spin in the air, wind and stuff. Like, this is like talk about it. You know, it's I bet you it's healing for him too. You know, because he was telling me, you know, he got some other health issues, and it's just like, what could be better than getting out, like grounding into the garden, putting microbes all over, spraying things that are edible, that everything enjoys. Like, this is just, what could be better, man? This is just like, um, I just think that this is what we're missing in our society. Like the more of us that do this, we connect to nature. All of a sudden, we start to understand that like we're one with it, right? And like our the reward of growing food and then being able to eat it and have this symbiotic relationship. Um, this is what we need. And so, anyone know of an effective way of turning a field into grass into a cover crop without tillage? And de Goofman is saying tarping an area. Yeah, especially if you got areas you want to do, throw down a little weed mat, pull that stuff up before you go to plant. And a couple weeks without light, it'll go. And Stone Mason saying his cherry tomatoes are as sweet as grapes, and we've been feeding them the strawberry, blueberry, pumpkin fermented fruit juice. That's amazing. And I bet you, if you took those and you gave them to a lab to like look and do nutrient analysis, I guarantee they'd be higher in all these things. When you get that sweetness, when you get that amazing like plant secondary metabolites growing, and you're spraying on these enzymes and these nutrients from the fermented fruit juices, they're just going to be off the hook in terms of healthiness. And now you're starting to get this loop going of where now you're concentrating more nutrients, more nutrient density, sweeter, better, like healthier, more robust. Like this is why I like sharing the Korean natural farming with you guys. Like you see this smile right here, right now. It's like, this is it, right? This is what we're up to. This is what we're doing. And this is how, we're making it happen. Yeah, and the church is in the garden and it doesn't need a building, right? But it needs caretakers, and it needs us to be, like we're told in all the great things, be a caretaker of the earth, right? Every great religion says be a caretaker of the earth. And they're baby corn. Okay, they're baby corn. I'm not gonna hassle you with the fish under there then. So yeah, and it's beautiful to see. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, if you wanna, you guys are doing good stuff. You want to share it here, share it up and get it going. Speaking of my, my thing that my potatoes are doing okay. And last week I was sharing my potatoes. I automated this system to do this, and I just want to share a little bit. I gotta actually reseed this thing, so it's a little bit of, after seeing the Goofman's thing, I'm like, man, I gotta up my game, and I've been doing a little natural farming in this, but not as much as I should. I show you my my potato garden. So I buried fish, then I put IMOs, and I put soil, then I put wood chips, and I need to do a little bit more KNF in here. We made a disgustingly cheap microbe, and I need to put another and to really get my game going. But I've been doing a fair amount of other things, and I've been automating this. But one interesting thing I want to show you is last week I didn't have the moisture sensor reading all the time, and so I set it up to read all 4 moisture sensors that are in here, and it reads them every 15 minutes. It takes a reading. So you can see here, this one at the top is the moisture sensor that's in the back, where all the water that flows down this direction, because this is downhill over here, this is the downhill side, it gets more moisture, right, because the water hits the bottom and then flows this way and drips out. And I'm trying to avoid water dripping out of the system because I don't want it to drip out. But here, you can see these different moisture sensors. And in the beginning, over here, a couple days ago, they were all tight to each other, kind of going up and down. But now they're starting to divulge. But the interesting thing to me with this here, it shows how during the night, more moisture comes out of the air, and during the day it goes away, and then during the night it comes back, and during the day it goes away, and during the night it comes back. And so at night there's almost the same amount of moisture on this level here. It's clearly it's getting a little bit more. Actually, it looks like it's more moist coming in as this thing's going. So it's interesting to me, and as these things are divulging, and the only way I'm going to be able to do this is to get more and more data on this to see. And then I also just got a humidity sensor, so I can also correlate that. And my friend gave me a humidity and temperature sensor. This little thing right here, this screen, and this little rig right here is a temperature sensor. But you can see I really haven't been watering it very much here on this graph here. I've been watering it a little bit, but not that much. And I need to plot that here so it'll say, you know, how many on the same graph, so you can really look at it and make good information. But I really want these potatoes to kick butt. These ones in the front, they're really doing well, and these other ones are a little laggard and stuff. So anyway, kind of an interesting thing to just show that robots cannot farm as well as humans. And so this whole idea of automating robots to farm and do this in the future, like, it's kind of like this crazy idea. I don't think it's a great thing. So but yeah, you know, understanding the spiritualness of it, understanding these things, understanding data, understanding how all this works. I don't think AI and robots are going to take over farming better than we are as humans, because there's so much more that we get to learn about it, right? And and I do want to figure out how to pump the natural farming solutions into this automatic line. So I was thinking of a peristaltic pump that would just pump maintenance solution in as it's going, get enough pressure to go through and do some things. So anyway, so let's see, get back from that. So Sarah Bach is asking, how can one do a living bed for dairy cows? And the dairy cows are very similar to doing the pig pen solution. The only difference is that if you were to do dairy cows inside, you would make the floor, instead of 4 feet for the pigs, you'd make it about 6 feet down. And I did get to see some nice cows in Korea where they're doing these cows indoor, and this system works really well. No smell, no clean. And if you're looking for the dairy cow before you bring them in, you can spray them down with lactobacillus. Like, you know, if you're in a larger dairy and you got a bunch of cows coming in, spray them down as they're coming in with lactobacillus. So that way it'll clean off any bacterias, help keep your milking operation a bit cleaner. And let's see here. I'll pull this up here of, there's a presentation I just did on livestock, which, let's see here. This one here, and I'll bring this over here so you guys can see this. But looking at this here, this is a presentation on livestock. But same barn you can do. And then this is my barn back in the day before, so years ago, 2012, before we planted it all up. But the floor right here is, you know, logs, charcoal in the bottom, logs, green waste. And this would, in a cow situation, this would be about 3 feet of logs and 3 feet of green waste. And that would then be under their feet. So you can see as I'm filling it up, although I recommend you make all the logs go the same way and then put the wood chips on top. And I built a system like this, which isn't how buried into the ground, but I framed all these walls up, put this tin on there, and then filled it up. So something similar could be done for the livestock. So logs, wood chips, fill that up with wood chips, and then I put a fence on the outside. And then this is my old pig Bacon and her little Kiki's there. But yeah, that's the way it goes. And then I put, of course, microbes and maintenance solution into this, and that's enough to inoculate it and get it to go. So anyone who's doing livestock, if you follow these instructions here, I know I kind of went over it fast, but you know, and then I filled this wall in here so that the pigs have, you know, access to everything. And then you see it immediately starts going down as this thing starts to compost and compact. But that's okay. And here's another solution where they're putting down wood shavings for the pigs. Similar split roof to keep the thing where the air comes in through the side and rises out the top. And here's another scenario where these guys built their thing entirely up off the ground and then filled it up with like coconut husks here. And, you know, raised their pigs and happy, no smell. Pigs are happy and watering them. So anyway, that's the same thing for any of these animal solutions. You put them up like that and it works pretty well. So yeah, so going through here and seeing, yeah, let's see, anybody else have a good question here? We got a couple more minutes. Yeah, foliar feeding is always, it's about twice as effective. Actually, I think it's about 4 times as effective if you foliar feed a plant, just because there's some of that question on drenching versus foliar feeding. You know, you have to put out 4 times more natural farming solutions. So yeah, I'm looking forward to automating that my Growbot potato system with you know, pumping and maintenance solution, just having it should get a peristaltic pump. Just get the Alibaba Chinese connection and get those things over here and hook that up. Yeah, I was just gonna go low budget on it and just have a peristaltic pump to do it. Let's see. Thinking the microbe solution could help stem rot. What happened? So one great way to keep stem rot away, you can use the microbes, but also the KNF protectors, man. There's nothing better than those lactobacillus to get rid of stem rots, those types of things. And yeah, let's see. Got a little wind coming through. It's a beautiful day here in Hawaii. Looking forward to getting out. I've been mowing this last week. Put fish down, put lactobacillus on top of the fish, and then covering it with like a mountain of clippings and things. And if you guys, you know, I should maybe I should do a photo gallery of my own stuff, what I got growing and how everything's responding here. And for next week too, because I'm always sharing other people's stuff, but then you guys don't even get to see what I'm doing, and doing a whole bunch of good farming here, although the pigs did just ravage all my nice cassava, but it's growing great. And you know, all my bananas that I'm harvesting. So someone was asking about banana harvesting, I think, in my email over here, but see, maybe just reply to them another way. And can I make a robot to mow my grass? Yeah, that's actually what I was working on, is a robot to mow grass. I think in order to do it properly, I'm going to have to, instead of the wheels, because the wheels slip, I'm going to have to build a tracked robot. But making a robot to mow grass, I got an extra mower. I sucked, the air filter came off and I sucked something into the engine itself, so I got to rebuild the engine. But it's a Briggs & Stratton and it has no bag on it. But I think I can make that thing with tracks and make that thing mow the yard and put collision detection on it and have it mow. But I like these guys here where they're saying a cow or a sheep or these other things. And do I slaughter my own pigs? Yes, I do. Slaughtered my own cow the other day. Had a prolapsed uterus, so I had to put her down. I had to. I didn't have to, but I did because it made sense economically for everything else we were doing. And now we got a bunch of hamburger, which is awesome. But yeah, I slaughter my own things. We're about to slaughter some chickens this week. And my wife's been making meat, what does she call it? Meat stew? I don't know. She's getting real into the GAPS diet and doing this thing. It's just, instead of making bone broth, she's making meat broth. And just taking like the whole chicken basically and slow cooking it and boiling it up and eating that. Yeah, and Eyewitness knows, he's been out here to the farm And yeah, it's a beautiful view looking out over the ocean there and all that. So, um, yeah, yeah, and yeah, I agree with you. Talking to 808 Shibi here of maximizing your FPJ and using it at 1 to 500 foliarly. Um, so, lucky me, in Western Australia, it takes 3 years of cover crops to make sufficient soil to grow grass. Try and speed that up. Do disgustingly cheap microbe drench, put disgustingly cheap food drench, and try to speed that up, Sicily. I would really try, because I think these microbes, you're putting out a cover crop to try to get these things, but cover crop plus the microbes and a little bit of biochar in there to get that carbon up and hold the moisture in there. I know it's hard. Western Australia is like, it's an old soil. You're in similar soil to me, which is really old and exhausted. But biochar, the fish aminos, all these natural farming solutions, if you put them in, yeah, and you're using everything, that's great. I just think, do a side by side trial. Try things where, where you're planting it in an area you don't do anything and just plant the same cover crops and see. And I bet you it's gonna speed it up. I can't promise miracles, it's just you gotta do it. Time, patience, energy, everything. But I think it'll work for you in understanding these systems. Um, so do I have a KNF Hui on the island? I used to. I used to meet monthly, but I just haven't anymore. It's a lot of effort to do that. And I've been doing this office hour. So if you want to Hui up, I've been doing it this way. You want to come by the farm, let me know. And yeah, make it happen. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope that it's continually useful for you. I want to thank Stonemason for throwing down some super chat, helping sponsor this thing, keeping me, upbeat. I love seeing the things you guys are doing. Love sharing this together. I really think we're making, a tiny, tiny, tiny difference. And with this ginormous world, what else can you expect to do, right? We're doing our best. We're making trillions of tiny differences. And if we continue to make trillions of tiny differences, maybe it will make a big difference. Maybe it will. Maybe we'll turn ourselves into superior leaders. Maybe we'll be humble, great, good people that we can rely on each other, that we can be warriors in gardens instead of gardeners in a war, and that we can bring peace and prosperity to the world, and we can continue to share this great abundance. And I just really thank you, thank God, thank everybody, thank Master Cho, thank the Pure KNF Foundation for also helping sponsor this, keeping me going, providing this equipment, making it all happen. But I couldn't do it without you. So thanks for being here. Thanks for all the blessings. Want to wish you a great week. Enjoy September. We're heading into fall. It's going to be amazing for us. Get ready to treat your land before we go into hibernation, and Easter, or not Easter, Thanksgiving's coming up, and all these things. So thank you. Want to wish you a great week, and long live the natural farmer. Korean little heart love here, little love for you. Sending that all over the world. Feel it good. Feel everyone that tuned in, everyone that watched it later. Feel this peace, feel this harmony, feel this love. We got this, guys. Long live the natural farmer. Aloha.